Welcome to Spiritual Living. We're delighted that you have joined us this morning, whether you're here in person in the center, part of our Zoom family, or if you're watching us on Facebook or our YouTube channel. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, we ask you to drop a note in the comments and let us know where you are viewing from. We'd like to know how wide our message is expanding. Neil Donald Walsch invites us to imagine. Imagine yourself as being okay right now, totally okay. Imagine yourself as whole, perfect, and complete. Nothing to change, nothing to improve. Imagine your heart as being open again, your life as if it were starting over in the most important of ways. Can you imagine this? This month, our theme is speaking truth to circumstances. And this theme in itself invites us to imagine experiencing new life in a new way, experiencing all of life in a new way. And in week one of this journey, we learned that circumstances are never the truth. When we look them in the face as the monsters they seem to be, we realize that we can neutralize their power. When we stand up against the monsters, we find that the monsters are really within each of us. And so it's about facing our own monsters. In week two, we examine the ways we have accepted or been hypnotized by the media and cultural conditioning. The awareness of being hypnotized allows us to free ourselves from reaction to authentic action. We no longer hide in our little caves of safety. We recognize that the world is interconnected in form and mirrors that interconnection back to all of us as beings of spirit. And then last week, we recognized the value of being patient and standing in our truth, as Shiva did by throwing himself under the blood-crazed Kali to bring her back to center. Like Kali, we're equipped with the tools of the job, so let's use them. Today, our topic is the wise warrior, the power to create real change. And we look at what being authentic means and what a spirit-centered wise warrior means. The Greek philosopher Plotinus, whose Ernest Holmes studied and is reflected in some of his writings, said this: "I do not argue, I contemplate. And as I contemplate, I let fall the seeds of thought into the mirror of mind, which then becomes the mirror of matter." You may recognize this from some of Holmes' writings. The mirror of mind becomes the mirror of matter. The way of the world is unpeaceful. The unwise warrior engages in combat with every puff of wind that comes along. Who remembers the book by Dan Millman, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior? It was a bestseller, and I think it came out in the early 2000s or maybe a little bit before that. It's described as a book that changed lives. And for those of you who may remember the book, it's a story about Dan Millman and his training with this archetype called Socrates. And it's his life journey through his connection with the body, mind, and spirit as part of his romantic journey, as part of other life experiences that make up the totality of life. Well, in this book, Millman works at a gas station, and he engages with the customers to the extent that they're willing to engage with him, the philosophy of life that he is learning and his discoveries of this journey along the way. And so one of his customers asked him one evening, "Hey, if you know so much, why are you working at a gas station?" And Millman responded, "It's a service station. We offer service. There's no higher purpose." And this last statement really resonated with me. There is no higher purpose than service. And this is what we are called to do along this spiritual journey as being peaceful and wise warriors, and that is to offer service to one another and to the world at large. And so as we look at this from the Science of Mind or New Thought perspective, we bring the principles of being spiritual beings to life by consciously manifesting something fresh and new. And I want to acknowledge Amber for that very powerful opening treatment this morning, because in that treatment was an invitation and a reminder that we're always creating something new. We're continually co-creating with Spirit to bring about something new into our lives. Principle, which is the source and the cause of which a thing results, is not bound by precedent, and neither are we unless we believe that we are. So this is an expression from Ernest Holmes. And what he's reminding us is that principle is first cause of everything. And that principle is not bound by precedent or something that happened in the past, and neither are we unless we choose to be. Raymond Charles Barker, who was one of the giants in our movement and a peer of Ernest Holmes, reminds us that we are in the midst of a power that is saying to us, use me, direct me, express me, I am ready. Are you? And this is from his book, Treat Yourself to Life. Then Holmes reminds us that one alone in consciousness with the infinite constitutes a complete majority. So as we are in alignment with the truth of who we are and the truth of all beings, we come into alignment with the universe, we come into alignment with each other. The wise warrior is anchored in peace and poise and is focused on what needs to happen without needing to fight. The wise warrior recognizes that all is one and that they bring a recentering to that oneness. The wise warrior begins by asking what rather than how to effect change. Let's revisit the quote from Plotinus, which gives us a path to follow. I do not argue, I contemplate. The collective consciousness has taught us to jump up and down and to yell and scream and communicate our outrage over situations. Now, activism has its place in the world, so I'm not saying there is no place for activism. What I'm saying is that it is how activism is used to bring about change that really affects the change. We may feel very righteous and about whatever it is that we're protesting or whatever it is that has us excited and elevated. However, it is proven largely ineffective in creating real and lasting change. Making war with outer circumstances, no matter how ugly they may appear, does not effect change. The wise warrior steps back and sees things differently. We create differently. We know there is only one power, a divine presence. And behind all of that and within all of the circumstances, no matter how ugly they may appear. The wise warrior looks past appearances to things and sees the core reality of what is present, coasting it forward into the situation and looking for a solution. And the solution often comes without bloodshed. Instead of getting angry over situations, the wise warrior asks, what do I need to see here instead? What do I need to see in this experience? What is Spirit's highest idea? This is part of our visioning practice, to ask that question. What is Spirit's highest idea for this situation? And then we stand back. The wise warrior stands back and contemplates rather than arguing, remembering that there is power in the silence. In the book, Yes, You Can Change the World, Amon Montway offers a path to change how we see the world. He invites us to see the intrinsic worth in every person that we encounter. Every person that we encounter, we see the intrinsic worth in that person. And this alone shifts our interpersonal relationships because the world is made up of relationships. And so he offers these 3 points of focus for us to use as part of shifting the way we interact with one another. And the first one is to focus not on how little time we have. Focus on how to make the most of what little time we have with every person. And the second one is to focus not on what you see on the outside of a person. Focus on the person within. See both the pain and the potential within the individual. And lastly, number 3, focus not on what is wrong with the person. Focus on what makes them right, seeing their strength within their weakness. Seeing the intrinsic worth in each person creates a snowball of change. And this allows us to become the change that we wish to see in the world. The wise warrior knows that it is not their power that creates real change. In what we describe as third state consciousness, we recognize that we are co-creators with the infinite. We open to life happening through us and as us. We're directing that power within that is greater than all of the stuff. We're becoming who we are, spreading the light we are, and sharing it and shining it so that others may remember their light. Ultimately, what we all want is love. What we want is reunion with the divine, with our source, with God, or however it is that we identify the source. And since source is love, that's what we are seeking. Beneath the scary outer is our divine inner. And that is what we are seeking. And so our takeaways and our call to action this morning is, I offer this quote from an African proverb that says, "What one hopes for is always better than what one has. What one hopes for is always better than what one has." We discovered the truth. We recognize that we are all interconnected. Like a spider's web, we are the jewels at the interconnection of the strands of the web of life. And I shared with you a couple of weeks ago my experience with the spider that has chosen to become a roommate at this point. And how it was on a chair that is right at eye level next to my desk. And I have a little throw on the back of the chair, so the spider was weaving a web between the throw and the chair. And it caught my attention by spinning out. It would spin out and it would swing back in and it would swing out again. Well, in one of my cleaning up frenzies, I decided to dust, which I should do more often, but that's beside the point. But in the dusting, I think I disturbed the spider's little web. And at one point, I saw a spider that resembled the one that was in my apartment that was crawling along my desk at work. And I go, "Oh, you hitchhiked here into the office on my bookcase, on my book bag." And so I don't know whether that was a twin that had shown up here, but I haven't seen it here at the office anymore. But my roommate is still there. And I see it periodically on the ceiling, and so I just acknowledge it now. And I haven't seen a web or I haven't encountered a web, but it just reminds me that all of life is interconnected and that this spider, as long as it doesn't multiply or bring in a whole family, we can coexist together. And so that's how it is with this web of life. We are invited to Remember that we're all here to coexist with each other. And it's the quality of time that we spend with one another, the quality of the time that we spend with one another that reminds us that each one of us is enough. Our willingness to stand as wise warriors, as practitioners of truth, creates change. We align with and we become the infinite power of good. It can't be just something that we talk about or even something that we do. We must be the power of love. We must be in harmony and in unity with ourselves and with one another. And the good news is we already are. We already are. And this takes us back to the opening quote by Neale Donald Walsch, asking us to imagine that we already are what it is that we wish to see in the world. Now, it may not happen as fast as our instant gratification egos want it to. Rest assured, it's happening. We have the tools of change, the principles, the practices, and the methods which equip us to be mighty, wise, peaceful warriors. The individual question is, and this is our opportunity for this week, is to ask the question, will I take up the cause to be a participant in the evolutionary change being called forth? Or will I pretend that there's nothing I can do and hide until change washes away my comfy shelter? So remember, we are always at that choice point. We can be a participant in the evolutionary change that is calling us to see ourselves as part of the interconnectedness of all life. Or we can stay in that so-called comfy place until something, a change, washes it away. The wise warrior does not get ensnared in smallness. They're going for greatness. And like a well-trained martial artist, when the wise warrior walks into the bar of life, no one picks a fight with them. Their presence is enough. And so I say to you this morning that your presence, our presence, is enough to bring about the change that we wish to see in the world. Let us say this morning our weekly affirmation together. I will say it and then I will ask you to repeat. I am love and compassion. My presence is enough. Let us say that together. I am love and compassion. My presence is enough. Let us pray together. Moving into that space of knowing that my presence is enough. I affirm and declare this because there is only one power, one life, one source of all that there is. And this source of life is reflected as my presence. It moves, lives, and has its beingness as my life. And as this is true for me, it is true for all beings. It is true for all situations. It is true for all circumstances. The one power, the power of love, that is inviting us to remember that we are all interconnected in this web of life. And so I speak my word this morning for myself, for this community, and for the entire planet, recognizing that we are enough. And then as I allow my imagination to expand on that, I call forth the power that is within me, that power that created me out of its own essence, to be that place where I show up. And that as I move through this adventure called life, I move with ease and grace and elegance, knowing that my presence makes a difference. And as this is true for me, I declare it as the truth for all people, in all places and in all situations. And I speak a word of blessing this morning for those who are gathering in the name and nature of the oneness of all life, recognizing that no one community, no one individual, no one place or experience, or no one practice has the totality of the truth, because the truth that is known anywhere is also that same truth that is known everywhere. And so in truth, we recognize our interconnectedness with all of life. As peaceful and wise warriors, the journey takes us into those places and situations where our presence is enough. Knowing that I am enough, I call forth that divine love that is within me to express itself, to be the light that illumines the path along the way. And as my path is illuminated, the path of those around me is illuminated. And so imagine, if you will, that each one is a radiant beam of light. And the lights are connected, the lights are interconnected, illuminating the entire planet with oneness, with grace, with beauty, with joy, with love. And I speak my word this morning, recognizing that in this adventure called life, there are opportunities, there are challenges, there are those situations that may cause us to ask, where is God? Where is Spirit? Where is this presence that is talked about in this situation that I am going through right now? Whether the situation is the experience of a loved one stepping off of this mortal plane into immortality, or whether that experience is finding right livelihood, finding gainful employment that allows me to be and do what it is that I need to be and do in this world. Whether that right livelihood shows up as my choice to live in shelter or to live unhoused. And wherever it is that I choose, that I live in safety, I live in partnership, I live in community with those around me, and no harm comes to me in the space where I am. And whatever else it is that is within the container of our own hearts, I'm declaring and affirm this morning that the Spirit is saying yes. Yes to whatever our desires are. Yes to whatever our requests are. And the only requirement is to make those requests known. Whether it be through a confidant, through a spiritual practitioner, through a therapist, through whatever resource that brings about a feeling of safety and a feeling of sacredness and a feeling of confidentiality. Knowing that all of life is responding to us right here, right now, in this moment. And so in gratitude for knowing the truth that I am enough, that we are enough, I give thanks. And I release this word into that law, which always says yes, just allowing it to be so. In gratitude for the demonstration that is occurring even now, I say yes and amen, allowing it to be. I invite you to affirm this with me as we say, and so it is, and so it is. Thank you for being a part of our celebration this morning. Thank you for being a part of this loving spiritual community. And I invite us now to say together our prosperity affirmation as we prepare for our morning sharing. Our affirmation of abundance. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the flow of uninterrupted abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so for those of you who are here in the center, we have a donation basket, a donation container that is on our table in the center. And we welcome you to leave your donations there. If you are contributing by mail, we invite you to continue to do so. We thank you for that. And our address is on our screen, 400 West Franklin Street in Monterey, California. You may also text to give, and that number is on our screen. You may also donate online through our website, montereycsl.org. Click on the donate button. And while you're on the website, if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, click on the subscribe button to our newsletter so that you may be kept current of what is going on and taking place here at the center. And I just have a few things to share with you today following service. We invite you to join us for coffee and conversation and for snacks. And then this is the fourth Sunday. This is when we gather for our spiritual living discussion circle. And what we discuss is articles that are in the Science of Mind magazine. And it is just our response, our interpretation of what that article is saying to us. And there's no right or wrong. It is our contribution to this, so we invite you to stay for that. Also a reminder that our visioning takes place on Saturday morning. We vision for the center. We do this via Zoom, and we use the Sunday service Zoom link. And also on Sunday morning, we have our visioning here in the center at 10 o'clock, and this is where we vision for our life. And then next Sunday is Potluck Sunday. So this is where we get to really enjoy and celebrate one another through our sharing of a meal together. So we invite you to bring something to share, and if you don't have anything to share, that's okay. There's always an abundance. We live in an abundant universe. So show up for that and be present. And then on the first Sunday in August, we will have a guest speaker, and our speaker will be Mitch Austin. He is a licensed practitioner at the Center for Spiritual Awareness in West Sacramento, and also a ministerial intern. And his bio is on our is in our newsletter, so you can read about him. Following the service, Mitch will be offering a workshop titled Taming Your Inner Critic. And so we invite you to stay for that workshop. The suggested value of the workshop is $50. However, Mitch is offering it to us on a love offering or a donation basis. So don't let the appearance of lack stop you from participating in this. And so that is it. I invite our Facebook and YouTube community to join us next week, where we will conclude our July theme, Speaking Truth to Circumstances, and our topic will be the standing stones, a beautiful, valued part of our garden. So we say good morning and God bless you to our virtual community.